Welcome, Stephen James Tingus, to the Global Innovation 2030 Digital Summit. Here at Ideagen, we are so honored to have you, and I'm really pleased to be interviewing you today, Stephen.
Thank you.
It is great to have you here. So I'm going to dive right into it. You recently finished up your first episode of your new series, Ideagen TV, guest hosted with Stephen James Tingus. Your
Right.
first two inaugural guests were Viola Davis and her husband, Julius Tinnen. For those who may have missed it, can you tell our global audience a little bit about the interview and just what was discussed?
Right. Well, Julius are very good friends of mine. The purpose of the inaugural interview was to talk about where we are as far as diversity and inclusion in Hollywood and talking about the statistics, where we are as far as hiring of talent behind and in front of the camera, and obviously a little bit about disability inclusion. It's a very informative segment that we did through Ideagen, and it was just really an honest discussion about race, disability, and the business sense of inclusion here in Hollywood.
Yeah, and I know you've been a huge advocate for disability inclusion across all sectors, not just, in Hollywood and your work in the past. Can you tell
Right.
our global audience a little bit about what it's like for those that are underrepresented in, let's say, Hollywood?
It's really hard, and a little bit, I would be remiss in not saying a little bit disappointing that
Hmm.
based on the demographics of America, we're still not, people with disabilities and other races are still not represented in many industries, whether it be business, corporate, whether it be Hollywood, whether it be in elected office. I mean, definitely in elected office. But, you know, we all try to do the best that we can do to make sure that people who are not um, close to the disability community to understand what it's like to live with a disability and the misperceptions about our actual abilities. So a lot of work still needs to be done, but fortunately, me and other leaders in disability are making a very uh, big effort to improve that. And there's about 20% of Americans have a disability, yet only about 2% are included in America with regard to employment opportunities. I would say, opportunities at a senior level.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, you talk a lot about the misconceptions and how to get those included in a operational and management level. What steps or actions, in your opinion, do you think we need to take to fix these issues?
I think we need, in a policy perspective, we need to give businesses more incentive financially, whether it be tax write offs or other opportunities to employ people with disabilities. And I'm not just talking about entry level jobs, although entry level jobs are very important for those with, um, you know, intellectual
Disability,
disabilities
sure, yeah.
and other disabilities that need to be employed to be self independent. And then there's people like myself that are educated and trained for executive level positions. So I think we really need to do a better job as a country giving the right incentives to large businesses and corporations to hire. And then I think we need to do a better job through PSAs to really educate people about disability, as we do for the senior population. You see a lot of ads on TV or PSAs about seniors, but you really don't see anything about people with disabilities. However, companies like Target and other companies, Microsoft, are including people with disabilities in their advertising. So I think we're making an improvement, but we need to really give large corporations incentives to be involved.
I mean, that's still inspiring for me to hear that, you think that we're taking steps forward at least, instead of being at a standstill or even regressing into something worse. So, uh,
Right.
yeah, that is some good news to take out of it. Uh,
Yes.
to kind of switch gears a little bit, uh, as we're on the runway to 2030 and
Uh-huh.
we head into achieving the 17 global goals that we always talk about here, have you
Uh-huh.
found a decrease in those that are underrepresented in Hollywood or an increase in what you might think that is?
Right. My most important goal for 2030 is goal number 10, reducing inequalities. And in Hollywood, for the past, I would say, 5 years, you've seen an increase in the representation of talent. I would say, there's behind the camera and there's in front of the camera. Let me be honest, I really don't see a lot of people with visible disabilities
Mm,
at the corporate level here in Hollywood. However, you've seen it increase from about 1% to about 2.5% of people, talent, for a better word, in front of the camera. And a lot of my friends in Hollywood are actors and directors and writers, mostly actors. And I do act when the opportunity presents itself on TV and in music videos and independent films. But again, my focus is on the business side of inclusion. So we have seen about a 1% increase in the participation rate for people with disabilities. But again, we represent 20% of America. And I think for all communities underrepresented, our target needs to be with regard to the demographic breakdown. So I want to see people with disabilities that are talented increase from 2% to close to 20%. because America wants to see itself on screen and on TV.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of brings me to another point. You mentioned that you're seeing a slight increase, at least, in actors and entertainers with disabilities. Uh, do you think that you're seeing any increase in the kind of managerial business side of it, or is it just stale or decreasing?
No, I don't think it's decreasing, and I don't think it's increasing. I've been helping NBC Universal and their leadership think about ideas for increasing the participation rate. Obviously, I'm advising Viola Davis and Julius Tennant at Juvie Productions
Right.
about increasing the storyline development and casting for their projects. And I'm also going to be advising people like Emmy Award winning director Norman Lear, who is a good friend of mine for many years, and Kate Fulp of the USC Edinburgh Norman Lear Center. They advise all the writers with regard to various topics, including disability. So it's going to take leaders like myself and other of my peers in Hollywood to really educate rather than I like to advocate and educate on the business side, because when you go into a corporate room, the table, you really need to have your facts and figures and the business economic incentive for inclusion. And if you don't have that, you really can't sell the issue.
Yeah.
So it's all about,
You have to be able to support it. That makes total sense.
yeah, talent is great. And we have a lot of good talent for Hollywood. But
Yeah.
again, it's all about the business of the business.
Yeah, sure. So to back it up just a little bit, you mentioned your last episode that you had with Viola and Julius, and I was
Yes.
a huge fan. That was an amazing interview. Without
Thank
giving too
you.
much away, could you share a little bit about your upcoming show and your new hit series with Ideagen TV?
Yes. At the end of the month, we will be filming an interview with the USC Annenberg Norbert Lear Center, specifically with Kate Fulp and hopefully with Norbert Lear himself, to
Wow.
talk about the work that they're doing with regard to educating and helping screenwriters better represent, uh, whether it be people with disabilities, whether it be seniors, whether it be about HIV, AIDS, whether it be about mental health. We're going to talk about the importance of authentic representation in the screenwriting process itself. And I've been supporting their center for, I think, since 2014. And they are a remarkable group of individuals that really help express what's going on in America for TV and film.
Wow, that's going to be great. I'm a huge fan of Norman Lear, and I'm excited to see that. That would be amazing. And I think that your interviews, at least with Viola and Julius, had a lot more intimate and personal touch to it. So it's kind of refreshing to see celebrities just sit down and,
Right.
and talk to, just regular people.
Right. The purpose of Ideagen TV Hollywood is to work with some of my good friends in Hollywood that are actually able to move the needle on inclusion. So these are meant to be very open, authentic discussions on the
Absolutely.
good and the bad side of the industry and how we can make it better so that everybody in America can see themselves in TV shows and movies.
Yeah, that's so real. It's really nice. Yeah, so thanks for joining us today, Stephen. You've been great as always. You're just as good an interviewee as you are an interviewer. As we conclude, do you have any call to action for our global audience as we head down the runway to 2030?
Yes, let's keep in the back of our mind that we are all going through an enormous change in America. I remember the civil rights era in '68. We need to make sure that we support one another. We need to have a better understanding of the struggles that we all go through. And we need to really love one another more now than ever to make long-lasting positive change.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. That's poetic, truly. Stephen, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to me for a little bit. It's been an honor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right.